Tyler, the Creator's Don't Tap the Glass is probably my favorite album from him since Wolf. And seeing how he's matured from more of his nihilistic raps in his earlier days, it's refreshing to see him put out a tape where he just simply wants you to dance. So coming off his recent release of Chromacopia in 2024, I wasn't really expecting Tyler, the Creator, to put out a new project. Of course, this was a surprise drop. He let people know that it would be dropping in a few days, and nobody really knew what it was. All we were getting were just these pictures saying don't tap the glass, giving you clear instructions on what not to do. And one of the most important things to do was to dance and enjoy yourself. So a lot of people were like, okay, we finna get a house album, we finna get a straight rapidy rap album, because you know he's still coming off his verse off the Clips album that just dropped. And we thought like, okay, so don't tap the glass, meaning don't wake the monster up, meaning don't wake up this side of Tyler, the Creator, that's gonna get in his bag and really start rapping. But no, this album encouraged you to dance, and there's really not a lot of raps. I mean, you might have some lines here and there, some punchlines, but other than that, this album solely exists for you to move your body. Now, I did do a review on Chromacopia last year when it came out, and in that album, I came to the conclusion that it was an album that Tyler was doing a lot of reflecting on. He was reflecting on his earlier life, the fact that he was getting older, and what was the next step, where to go from here. I've already accomplished all these things. And the album was a very, I wouldn't say somber, it wasn't sad, but it was kind of like a realization, you know, knowing that I am growing up. One day I might meet somebody, start a family, have a child. Like, am I really ready for those things? And those are the questions that Chromacopia was asking. And you know, it was a more formulaic type of album. It did have a theme, it had a style, but Don't Tap the Glass is none of that. So let's talk about the cover. Now, of course, if you know hip hop and you've been following hip hop for years, you know that that cover is inspired by LL Cool J's I'm Bad off the Bigger and Deffer album released on Def Jam. Now, somebody like myself who is a product of 90s hip hop, I automatically recognized it. The big gold rope chain, the all red, well, it's not a Kango, it's a trucker hat, but the red hat and then the red pants automatically took me to LL Cool J's I'm Bad, who is one of the greatest of all time. So when I first saw the cover, I'm like, okay, Tyler is back in his hip hop bag. We about to get straight bars, you know, coming off that Clips album. I'm thinking, okay, he's trying to keep the momentum going to show people that he's not to be played with lyrically. But I feel like this album pulls from a lot of different things, house, hip hop, R&B, and you could tell that Tyler in his production is just getting more clearer about the direction he plans on going. And this project did not take a lot of tracks to get that point across. He didn't have to bloat the project, and I felt like he picked the best of what he was working on at the time and presented it. And yes, like I said, it is one of my favorite works from him since Wolf. All right, so let's talk about some of my favorite tracks. Sugar on My Tongue, definitely one of my favorites. I love the beat. It reminds me of like an early Neptune sound, and of course, you know, one of his frequent collaborators and one of his mentors he looks up to, Pharrell, naturally he's going to be influenced by that. So that automatically put me in the mind of that. It's a record that's going to move you whether you want to move or not. And you know, I love it. Another record I like off the project is Ring Ring Ring. I love the beat. Of course, when the beat come on, it reminds you of Michael Jackson's Off the Wall, and I think it does sample a little bit of it. It also samples a little bit of Saturday by Sherelle Alexander. Very, very dancey record. Reminds me like of a disco type pop record with infused with a little bit of hip hop. Sucker Free is also another dope record. The hook on that is amazing. I'm That Guy. It just reminds you of like old school 90s West Coast music. I'll Take Care of You is also a standout record on that project that I fell in love with. It's probably the one that I run back the most. Of course, it samples Crown Mob's Nuck If You Buck. I'm from Atlanta, so off the rip, I already knew what that was. And it also pulls from other things like Chicago Juke. It reminds me of that as well. Maybe a little bit of Go-Go and DC, but it really put me in the mind of like Chicago when they be juking, you know, with the foot dancing and stuff. I don't know how to do it, so don't even ask me, but another dope record. Now, the last 3 tracks on this project take a different tone than the earlier part of the project. It's actually switches direction, it feels like. First half of the project feels more hip hop. It feels more, you know, disco, more dance. But then the last 3 kind of get into this R&B house bag. And I love these records. Now, I hate doing comparisons, but this project feels like Tyler, the Creator's GNX. I know what you're thinking, like, what does that even mean? So when Kendrick dropped GNX, it was pretty much a West Coast type of album. A lot of people would say, well, there's more styles to the West Coast, but for people outside of the West Coast, GNX came off as a very, very West Coast album. I'm going back to my roots. This is what that feels like for Tyler. This feels like the things that he was influenced, as a child. He's going back to that, and being that he's from the West Coast, he's talking in a very, very West Coast slang on here. You know what I'm saying? Saying like, hey, bro, hey, Brody. You know what I mean? Like getting hype. And you love to see that because we need more regional hip hop. We need people going back to the roots of what made their music different from everybody else. Because is hip hop really hip hop if everything sounds the same? Nah, man. It wasn't like that in the beginning, and it don't need to be like that now. The South is the South, the West is the West, the North, the Midwest. Everybody has their own distinct style, and I feel like Tyler really honed in on that. And being that, growing up listening to West Coast music, we was dancing to that music. Whether it was some Dr. Dre, Snoop Dogg, Too Short, whatever, we was dancing to that music. So to see Tyler go back, pull from everything that he's been influenced by. He even had a record on here where he samples a little bit of Too Short. You know what I mean? So you got that Bay Area influence. So it was just real dope hearing that. And I've made videos about this in the past where I talk about how important it is that artists hone in on their regional sound, because we get back to that, man. Hip hop gonna go on for another 50 years and another 50 and another 50, because there's constant innovation in, cultivating your sound rather than copying somebody else's. Now, as far as the production on this project, he produces every single song on this project. He did get, a little assistance here and there from the samples, but Tyler was pretty much the dude that produced everything on this project. Now, comparing it to his earlier works, let's say like something like Wolf, right? Or something like Flower Boy, even something as recent as Chromacopia. This right here wasn't, as I would say, as bloated as Chromacopia, nor was it trying to tell a story. It was just making music. And his production is precise. Like I said, he pulls from those Neptunes type of records. He pulls from things that he's inspired by. He pulls from the house influence, even pop, some parts of this project. And the way he's in the pocket on these records, the way that it's mixed, the way these beats are hitting. Like I said, Ring 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 is probably my favorite record. Like if you don't dance to that, you must not have no rhythm. Like if you have just a 1% of rhythm in your body, this project will make you move. And I'm gonna be honest with you, we got to start having that conversation, because Tyler is putting out quality products. This isn't mystery music like some people like to call it. He's putting out quality products with quality production. So at some point, we got to start having that conversation. Is Tyler working his way up there to one of the top producers in the game? Because I don't know too many artists that can put together projects where, you have cohesive stories being told, and then you have artists who put out projects where, it's like a jam session, but he's doing the entire thing himself. He's locking himself in the studio and coming out with these records. Nobody's assisting him. So we got to start having that conversation. Is Tyler, the Creator, one of the best producers in the game? And I'm gonna just come out early and say, yes, he is. You listen to this project and you like the stuff he's sampling, like how your ear will just pick up on a Michael Jackson interpolation, or you'll hear a sample from a record that you heard from a long time ago and go look it up and be like, oh snap, he really did go there and sample that. Like, what made him think that? But that's a producer's mind. You know what I mean? And at the end of the day, it don't get no more hip hop than that, because it starts with the producers, with the sampling, the Marley Marls. If it wasn't for them, Tyler wouldn't be doing what he doing right now. So it's dope to see. And his production has definitely taken a leap, especially from the earlier days. And even in the earlier days, it was hard. So I'm loving what I'm hearing from Tyler. Okay, so final thoughts. What do I truly believe about this project? I'm gonna say it's a classic. And I'm gonna say it's a classic in the sense that it's the first project that I've thoroughly, and I mean thoroughly, enjoyed from Tyler since Wolf back in 2013, right? I liked his projects, between there, but I always felt like they were more, trying to tell a story, or trying to, like, I don't know. It was just him growing as an artist. And then even last year with something as recent as Chromacopia, I love that project because it was him getting to a point in life where he was like, where do I go from here? Kind of like he's at a crossroads. Like, I'm getting older. Me rapping about the same stuff I was rapping about back then, it really doesn't serve any purpose because I'm not that guy who I was back then. I'm also in my 30s. I don't have kids. I don't have a family. Will I start a family? Like, where am I gonna go from here? And I felt like that's why that project was kind of hit and miss for some people. But for this one right here, I feel like this is the next generation of it. He's going back to his roots, them West Coast roots. He's getting back to that bounce, that West Coast swag, that West Coast slang, and I love to see it. Also, even with music itself and hip hop, hip hop has become so, I'm not gonna say dark, but over the recent years, hip hop has become more, you know, more rough around the edges, and people aren't dancing as much. I mean, even if you go to the clubs nowadays, most clubs just have sections. Like, nobody's dancing, everybody's just standing around looking at each other. Everybody's trying to get the VIP experience. But I love how it's getting back to, hey man, you need to get your funky ass on that dance floor and shake a leg, because moving your body is how you stay alive. The moment that you stop moving those legs, you stop moving those arms, it's like you telling your body that you give up. And us being black folk, you know, we grew up off of rhythm, right? We dance when we're sad, we dance when we're happy, and moving your body is a form of spirituality. Moving your body is a form of energy work. Moving your body is a form of release, getting all that stress off. So to get a project like this from Tyler, I would say it's right on time. We needed this. You know what I mean? Just for hip hop, and not even just for hip hop, but just for music in general. So I'm loving the new era that we're about to experience from Tyler the Creator. If you have not heard this project, please listen to it. And look, if you going to work out, throw this project on. If you're going outside to run, a couple miles, throw this project on. If you at work, throw this project on. Maybe it'll get you through your day. Either way, sonically, lyrically, and just everything else about this project is perfect. But yeah, man, it's the Kid Ríez. Until next time, ladies and gentlemen, make sure y'all be safe, stay carefree, keep dancing, and I'll catch y'all later. Peace.